This is my second in a series of commentaries on lectures of Sar Drugs.WMV that are available on YouTube. The title of his lecture is Why Drugs Are Dangerous. I've changed that to How Recreational Drugs Inhibit Psychic and Spiritual Development because that is the issue. So we're going to take a look at that now. Sar Drugs.WMV had very good reasons for advising people not to take recreational drugs, smoke pot, take LSD, and so on. We're going to take a look at some of these reasons in this little interpretation of his advice given about drugs. We have more than just our physical body. We have several subtle bodies that have been described in different ways through different cultures and different understandings, and we can even measure some things about these bodies using modern electronics and other kinds of devices. I'm going to show you a diagram taken from the website sponsored by the Spiritual Research Foundation, and this is as good a modern understanding as we have based on ancient ideas. The Egyptians described 7 subtle bodies, and that became, in the New Testament, that became body, soul, and spirit, 3 subtle bodies, really, with soul and spirit, and in the Kabbalistic, the nephesh, and so on. We're going to take a look at the subtle bodies as we understand them today. The first is the physical body. The second is what we call the etheric body. And the etheric body consists of the invisible energies that run and are run through and are modulated by the glands, and it involves what we call the chakra system and the Antic Karana, which we're going to talk about in a little while. And the vital force and vital etheric body is one that is able to be measured somewhat through certain electronic means today. There is then what we call the mental body, or the lower mind, or the astral body, the sidereal body. Then there is, at the heart, there is the jivatma, the soul, and it is that permanent atom that preserves who and what we are in our essence from lifetime to lifetime, and it mediates between the lower triad of bodies and the higher triad. We have then what we call the causal body, or higher mind, or it's known as buddhi, wisdom body. And finally the supra-causal, the higher self, or the atma. The higher self is the means through which we are guided when we learn to first receive that kind of reception. And it's a very important kind of guidance, because the whole way we progress spiritually is by making a connection, an attunement, and a communion with that higher nature and that higher self. We're going to be talking with respect to drugs about the vital etheric body and the chakras, because that's where they are affected through the glands. Now, the chakras are etheric vortices, or wheels of vital force that network throughout the body through different junctures and conjunctions we call nadis. And they correlate to the spinal and nerve ganglia that we find in the body, and to the glands in the body. There are 2 or 3 major ganglia and other ganglia that add up to about 7, and 7 basic glandular systems. And these things are affected by electromagnetic and chemical exposure. For example, use of cell phones, which are radio transmitters, next to the head eventually can cause physical damage, but also causes etheric damage. And they can also be affected positively by sound and prayer and mantra. Each of these chakras is responsive to a certain kind of harmonic that can be accessed through Sanskrit mantra or seed syllable. And most effectively, they are accessed through silent internal prayer and mantra, because it's through the mental body that the sound, the mental sound, the soundless sound, is generated. This entire system of subtle bodies and its connection to the physical body is developed through what is called the Antic Karana. Now this is a harmony, a webbing of etheric spirali that run between the bodies, the subtle bodies, and between the chakras, and develop over a period of one's lifetime. And they connect the lower self to the higher self more and more firmly and more effectively over a period of time. It's known as the Rainbow Bridge. So the Antic Karana is a very, very important thing in our spiritual growth and development. It's that which allows us to see psychically, to perceive psychically beyond just the material world. The subtle bodies contain within them specific kinds of channels that interconnect with this. The main ones of which are called Ida, Pingala, and Shushumna. They're called rivers that run through the body. And they can be mapped, and they can be, you can work with them. Every part of your body has a connection through the webs and the spirali that interconnect them. And when enough connections have been made through these subtle spirali, then the Kundalini force rises up and creates this connection. And the Kundalini force is Akashic energy that flowers from the root chakra and eventually brings about a condition of enlightenment and communion of the lower and the higher, and is a fulfillment of a perfect human being. And it unifies what we call the lower and higher triads of the chakras and of the bodies through the heart chakra. So it's very, very important for this to be able to develop unimpeded. Now, how do psychedelic drugs affect the subtle systems? Well, they cause a premature forcing of the Kundalini, of the Akashic energy, which is like trying to push jet fuel through a Model T Ford. It's going to just ruin the engine. It's going to be too explosive. It's going to be too hot. And it burns the etheric webbing and makes holes in it and makes it not functional. It actually destroys what may have been lifetimes of achievement in the past. And it can effectively destroy the psycho-spiritual progress in one's incarnation. It's possible that you, if you use a lot of this sort of thing, that you'll never be able to develop through meditation and in the natural way, and you will have fantastic experiences for a while, but eventually they'll go awry and you'll end up with hellish experiences. So here we have the paradox. Those who are seeking spiritual things and become aware of them through recreational drugs, which can make people aware of these things and interested in spiritual development, the drugs themselves can damage and shut down the natural etheric structure through which development can occur. And this is what Torkim is talking about when he talks about the dangers of drugs. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Okay, today we are talking about drugs. Do you have drugs in your pocket? See, this lecture is not to scare you. Also, it is not planned to insult you or to belittle you. If you used it in the past, that's your business. I have nothing to do with it. I'm just trying to help people so that they know what they are doing when they are using drugs. My part is a little help to the war that is going against the drugs. And those who are understanding the real indications of using the drugs, then they will be the part of that fight against the drugs. So today I am trying to give you a very holistic picture about what the drugs does for us. Now you will like it, and I will try to explain to you in a way that it's all inclusive. When we use the drugs immediately go to 3 glands. And one gland is called pineal gland, next one is called pituitary body, and next one is called carotid gland. It's one here at the middle, one is here, one is here. Now what they do, immediately they reach to these places, they disturb the mechanism of the glands. For example, if you take a screwdriver and push it into your television or into your watch or clock, what happens? It disturbs the whole mechanism. And when the mechanism is disturbed, these 3 glands secrete some kind of hormones. Now this is a hormone that is used for different things, I will tell you. And this is another thing, this is another thing. So the dosage of the hormones either increases or decreases or stops when you use drugs. For example, this one is controls the whole metabolism of human being, and it affects through the mental plane. This one affects through the astral plane. This one affects physical plane. So your mental, astral, and physical planes are disturbed because of the secretions of these glands that are unbalanced, disturbed, or stopped.